Hello, avid readers, book nerds, or casual observers, and welcome to the Read Along brought to you by the Lit Round Table. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Anna, and this is our read through of Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch.
Okay, everyone, it's time. The finale!
Did you finish the dang book? Because you should have.
Because we're going to talk about it. Yeah, it's the finale. Also, episode 9?
Mm-hmm.
Part 9?
Week 9.
Of Red Seas. Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch.
Chapter 16 in the epilogue.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, though, would you like to tell the beautiful people what book won the voting for the next book?
Yeah, it's clear that everyone else was like on the edge of their seats just like we were. And by everyone else, I mean the people who can vote by being a member of our Patreon. And the next book is The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. So it's the third book in the series, which is super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Super pumped. Very excited. So yeah, The Republic of Thieves will be the next read-along book here at the Lit Round Table. So go grab your copy. I'm excited.
Also super pumped. So, but before we can talk about that, we gotta finish up Red Seas Under Red Skies. So
yeah, man.
Let's get to it.
Here we go.
Chapter 16 is called Settling Accounts. Pretty appropriate title for the chapter.
I know this one, so just disclaimer, it has been a little while since I've read this because I bulldozed through it at the end, but Anna has read it much more recently.
Yeah.
But I do remember that, doesn't this one start with a bit of like a funeral situation for Ezri and the fallen crew?
Yes.
It's very sad.
It is. And Locke's prayer to the Crooked Warden is very endearing. And then Jean offers a death offering, which we don't even find out what that is until the end of the chapter. Like, they allude to it, but they don't give us a definition. Turns out that it's when you steal something equally of value to what was lost. And so, Ezri being what was lost, they end up stealing Stragos, the Archon. And Jean's like, it's not enough, but it's the best I can do. So, which, wow, this chapter, a lot happened.
Yeah, it was there wasn't as much, I don't want to say it felt like frantic because that's kind of a dramatic word, but it was very tight. Like, all of the things that happened, there wasn't as much room to breathe as earlier on in the book, you know?
It felt very rushed. I wish that the pacing would have been like earlier on when we were in some of those like really long, like, wow, we were spending a lot of time on some of this stuff. I wish it would have been paced a little differently, so it didn't feel so rushed.
Yeah, I think there could have been a whole other chapter. I think it should have been like a chapter dedicated to dealing with Rodonov and the Dread Sovereign, which we got. I wish we would have had a chapter dedicated to dealing with Stragos, and then a chapter with dealing with Requin, or in whatever order it needed to be. But we got it. We just kind of got the Requin and Stragos chapters simultaneously, and it was a lot. It was just a lot. There's a lot of boxes to check off.
And there was a part where after they, it's hard to do this without going in order, but I don't necessarily feel like we need to go like beat by beat what happened. But
they've read it. Yeah. They've read it. They know what happens.
When they're back in front of the Archon again with the eyes, and like he thinks he's gotten the upper hand on them finally, and then it ends with Jean hitting him in the face.
Yeah.
And then it switches to like the next section. It's like, here's how it happened, and I was like, it felt kind of gimmicky.
It did feel a little bit like a whodunit, like the end of a mystery novel. Like, here's what they did, and it's kind of an example of like show don't tell, and this one they kind of just fell back on. They just told us instead of which for dramatic reasons, like I get it. We were in suspense. We didn't know that there were double agents in the eyes and whatever that they had planted. But I
But
feel like
we
there's maybe a better way
but
they
we
could have
did
done that.
kind of know because we had seen him go to the priories, right?
Yeah, yeah. The priori,
Priori, sorry.
um, priory would be like a religious
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, you're right. Priori, sorry, the priori. So we
Yeah,
kind of knew that like they had a plan. We just didn't know what exactly the plan was,
right,
and they could have
right.
revealed it by doing it the other way. But in The Lies of Locke Lamora, he did that too in the beginning. But I felt like that was more like him proving to, or like showing us how like good Locke was at being an actor. Like you would read that
Yeah,
section, not like quite know like what had happened or how he had like weaseled himself into that situation, and then they
uh-huh.
revealed like, oh, he like put on this costume and everything, and then like took us back in time to show us how he got there. But I feel like that established like, oh, Locke is really good at this
Yeah.
and really good at like flipping the story. I
Hmm.
don't feel like we needed it at the end of this book.
Yeah. It could have just been, oh, the eyes are actually priori plants, and then they could have just done it, and then the Archon is just shocked, and then it would have just been Locke saying, "Oh, you thought that you had the upper hand, did you? Well, joke's on you. We had the Priori's help, and they helped
Yeah.
uh, hijack the carriage and overtake your guards and all this stuff." But it was just like instead of the narrator told us, which it did feel kind of odd.
Yeah.
But
I didn't love that. It's a small thing, but I
yeah,
was like, oh, we could have just been along with John and Locke for that whole thing.
yeah,
We didn't need to go
yeah,
back to the way it was before because they're different people now.
yeah.
Um,
So but that's how they dealt with Stragos with the death
mm-hmm.
offering and everything, which was cool. But backtracking a little bit, so let's talk about the Requin stuff. Um,
Yeah. Well, first
so
of all,
they
the chairs.
yes,
Um, you and we fussed over what the deal was with those chairs for so long, and it
and it was
was
pretty
it
eh.
was pretty It was pretty simple. They break the chairs and
There's
there's
just
tools in the chairs. Okay.
why did they have to be fireproof? I guess was it just in case that there was a fire and they didn't want their tools to burn up?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know.
what's the deal? I don't know. But I mean, like, I feel like the setup for the chairs was a little much
Yeah,
with like what the actual payoff was with the chairs.
right. Yeah, that's just another example of the pacing where like, oh, we spent a lot of time with this one detail and then it turned out to be like not that big a deal.
I mean, it did introduce us to a location that we could despise so the pirates could go and mess it up, but
Yeah.
I feel like there was a better way.
Yeah, I just
Um,
it's just speaks to the pacing is all for me.
yeah.
And then they steal a bunch of Requin's paintings, so they think.
Yeah.
Turns out Requin had doubled down and didn't have the real painting. Which, like, how did he know to do that?
Well, I think it makes sense that like he is in possession of the real paintings, but
Yeah.
he doesn't want those to be the ones that are on display in
Okay.
his office. Those are locked away in a vault, but he has duplicates hanging so that he can still like appreciate them,
But
even though they're not the originals.
also like his office is hard to get into. Like you
Yeah,
don't
I don't know.
like this is the first time that someone has gotten in there without being invited.
Yeah.
And it's because they kind of had an appointment.
Hmm.
So I don't
But
know.
we did get to see the playing card cement,
Yes.
um, which that was actually handy of being able to just
Right.
seal a door shut with this super cement
Right.
stuff.
I was like, huh, that was a simpler use for that than I was expecting. But that's that in
Yeah.
that instance it was okay. Because we hadn't
Yeah.
spent a ton of time talking about the cards. that can turn into cement.
Yeah.
It had just been like a throwaway thing. And I was like, that's interesting. And then it had an interesting payoff that wasn't like, overdone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Solandria and Requin in the epilogue. I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but they were kissing. No. That was the end of this chapter. Confirmed couple.
Confirmed a thing. Well, I mean, I figured they were.
I know, but they were so like edgy and like weird that it was like assumed but not confirmed. So it's like confirmed.
Yeah, for sure.
And she felt bad about the paintings, and then he was like, it's fine.
They're not real.
They're not real. So, yeah. We got to talk about the alchemist business.
Really quick, before that, was it during the epilogue or this chapter when... It might have been the epilogue when they talk about Solandri's new position, what it's going to be.
No, I think it was this chapter.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, basically, Solandri's going to kind of, like, take over the eyes because she used to be one.
Yeah.
So she's going to, like... So the Priori and Requin were talking about what to do with, like, the Archon's assets and all these eye people that are, like, super spies.
Right.
And he was like, well, let's keep them and use them. And Solandri's going to head that thing. So now she's like a little spy master, and she's going to be able to be even more creepy.
Yeah, I think that's good. You know what she reminds me of? I know you haven't watched The Legend of Korra, but in The Legend of Korra, Toph's daughter is like the head of police.
I know which character you're talking about. I can picture her.
Yeah, and like,
I don't know her name, but
very similar characterizations between her. Like, she's like kind of hard and like abrasive, and like how I picture Solandri being. So,
she reminds me of Inquisitor Galacta from the first Law trilogy because she has also been horribly maimed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now she's gonna head up this like spy organization, and like Galacta's a member of the Inquisition in the first Law trilogy. So they remind me of each other a little bit, but
yeah, I would say that like Solandri is a mix of Galacta and Toph's daughter, whose name I can't remember, which is driving me crazy, but it's fine. Yeah, because she's like tall and really intense.
Likes to beat people up.
Yep.
Cool. So anyway, yes, on to the alchemist business.
Yeah. So weird deal. He only carries one antidote with him for all of his poisons.
Idiot.
And he specifically designs them so that they can't be like taken and then reproduced.
Duplicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has
the recipe is in his brain.
Right. He has to like make them specifically each time. And then Moraine does an odd thing. Moraine being the lady that's like been kind of, I'm still confused about what her deal is, but
she was working for someone that was over Stragos.
Right, but we don't ever find out who, because she makes a decision that I can't let the alchemist live because I can't let these two yahoos live because they all know too much.
Yeah.
So she kills one of the eyes, the false eyes, and then she also kills the alchemist and tries to smash the vial. And then she and Jean end up fighting. And did she get away?
She did.
She did.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. She gets away, but Jean got some good hits on her. But, and the vial is saved, but the alchemist dies.
Yep.
So now there's 2 poison boys and 1 antidote. So, yeah.
And then it becomes a decision of
who
gets the antidote.
And the alchemist makes a point before he dies of saying, like, you can't split it. It's all or nothing. So, because it won't.
It is enough for one person
if you split it. So.
Yep.
Oh boy.
And then they give Stragos to the poison orchid people, and he gets to just hang out in their hold forever till he dies.
Does she put him in the hold? I thought she What's that called?
Jeep.
Where they put him outside and like drag him along in the wake. Key hauling? Keel?
No, I think it was just he was gonna go into like the deepest, darkest hole in the ship.
Oh, maybe. But he was super wigged out about it.
Well, yeah, because he was gonna lose his mind.
Okay, hold on.
I'll look for it too.
Oh, you're right.
Yep, I just found it too. The Orlop, whatever that means. You're going in the Orlop, Stragos. You're going into the dark, and we're going to treat it as a special privilege to carry you around with us wherever we go, in any weather, in any sea, in any heat. We're going to haul you a mighty long way, you and your irons, long after your clothes fall off. I guarantee you'll still have those to wear. So he's just going to be a wretch in their
Yeah.
hold
Which,
forever till he dies.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah. I feel like that does kind of open the door for him to escape somehow.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like we haven't seen the last of him.
We'll see. I guess we'll find out.
I feel like they should have just murked that guy.
There was also like a whole thing about before he realizes that the eyes that have brought Locke and Jean in are false eyes. He's going on and on about what happened at Windward Rock.
Oh,
because a bunch of people were killed and they should not have been, and Locke doesn't know what he's talking about. So I feel like that's going to come back around. Or do we already know what happened?
No, that's because Moraine went and killed him while they were knocked out.
Yes.
Because she wanted them to be blamed for it because she wanted them to fail.
You're right. Well, I think Moraine is definitely coming back around, so.
Oh yeah, she's gonna come back.
Anyhow.
Her and the people she works for, whoever that is.
Whoever that is.
We'll find out in the next book.
We did find out that the Priori are responsible for the Bonds Magi fiasco that Jean and Locke have been dealing with off and on this
yeah.
book.
Well, because they were the ones they were the ones sending the random alley assassins after them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the Bonds Magi told them to.
Yeah. And Locke's like, you're an idiot. Okay, so then the epilogue. Mm-hmm. Really the biggest thing in the epilogue is that they find out that the paintings are real. And so Locke didn't actually make them any money, and he's mad at himself for it. Yeah. And then they are getting ready to set off on their own little adventure.
On the pleasure barge that was supposed to have Ezri on it too. Mm-hmm. But then, she's not. Right.
They did get a cat this time, though, so.
They have a cat. I think it's the cat. I think it's the cat Locke keeps saying, I'm not going to get attached to you. I think it's the same cat.
That's really funny. I love that.
It better be.
And then while they're having dinner, they eat and drink all their wine. And then Jean pulls out the vial and he's like, okay, we're going to split this.
And then Locke's like, actually, I already poured it in your wine. That's a fake.
And Jean is livid.
Yeah.
Which, I get it.
I mean, after Ezri died, I think Jean, part of him, kind of just wanted to call it.
Which I think is why Locke did what he did.
Yeah. Well, we know that there's going to be more books after the next one, so I'm assuming they figure out the whole poison situation.
Yeah. Or if Locke isn't in the one, but all of them.
It's just Jean and company. I don't know. Jean
They're called,
continues the name.
It's called the Gentleman Bastard. It's not
the Gentleman Bastard, Locke Lamora.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll find out. So anyway, that's the book.
Yeah. So what were your overall impressions of the book?
Overall, I think that we've already touched on it. I think the pacing was a little wonky.
I would call that the weakest aspect.
Yeah.
For me.
And there were points where the setting was way too much, and then points where it wasn't enough, which is saying something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that, like, the concept was really awesome. I wish we would have had more time with Esri, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a decent amount of time with her, but I think so. I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying about the pacing. And there are some instances where we get a huge setting dump for an area that like
We don't need.
we don't need or care about or come back to.
Right.
So we could have used more of those setting dumps for just like the Sin Spire or Port Prodigal. That would have been. I mean, we got setting for those places, but I feel like that could have been focused elsewhere a little bit more. And the just the pacing is odd to me because the only reason I would have thought that it was going to become a piratey book is just because of there's a burning ship on my cover.
Yeah, mine too.
That's the only reason why I would suspect it. I mean, yeah, Red Seas Under Red Skies. That sounds like a piratey novel name, but for the first however long,
It's not at all.
it's not a pirate. It's just a heist book about the Sinspire heist, and then they get totally sidetracked off in pirate land, and eventually manage to pull off the Sinspire heist.
But not
It just
really,
felt
because they don't
yeah
actually break into the vault. They don't actually
yeah.
make any money off this Inspire.
So that all felt really wonky.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't adhere to like the standard storytelling template, which is fine. Not all stories need to do that, but it felt a little more jarring in this.
Right.
Does that make sense? Am I explaining myself
No,
well?
totally. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, like, we could have trimmed down the Sinspire bit in
Yeah,
the
and just
beginning
focus
quite
more
a
on the
bit.
piratey stuff.
Had
Yeah,
more of the pirating. Not necessarily, like, I liked the montage of them learning how to be a pirate. Like, that was fine.
that was fun. Yeah,
I don't think that that needed to be adjusted. But, like, the last chapter for sure could have been split into 2 chapters.
or even 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then we could have shortened the first part
Right.
by about 2 or 3 chapters.
Yeah.
And then it would have. I feel like that would have made a little more sense, pacing wise.
Yeah.
We would have had more piratey stuff. So anyway,
Yeah, it just the first book felt like it had a really cohesive, like, there were multiple things happening, but they were happening like
yeah,
in tandem, and so I feel like this was an attempt to like have multiple things going at once, but they couldn't actually happen at the same time. And
right.
so it just ended up being really odd.
The first book had a lot of twists and turns, and it was really hard to predict what was going to happen next, which is fine. But it still made sense. Like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison. It's like you could compare it to, let's say, the first third of the book was the Sinspire stuff, and then they got swept off to become Bonds Magi, and it turns into like a Harry Potter-esque magic school story. That's pretty much what happened, but instead of magic school, we went to pirate school.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like it totally turned the whole story on its head a third of the way through.
Yeah.
It was still a good story. It just didn't make sense,
Right.
like structure wise. But the first book was able to pull it off because it was still just one big heist. It was all still like dealing with the Grey King.
And they were in one location. They weren't being like pulled to
Yeah.
other places.
Yeah, we just stayed in Comore the whole time. I mean, they went off and did some things elsewhere in like the flashbacks and stuff, but
That's different
the
though.
meat of the story was
Yeah.
all in Comore. So that was also a little easier to track. I do miss Comore.
I do too.
I hope we get to go back there. So yeah, those are my main critiques of this one.
Yeah.
Of the two, I would say I still probably like the first one a little more, but this one I think was still overall really strong. I still really, really, really love all of the character interaction,
Oh yeah.
all of the dialogue, all of like I'm very, very attached to the characters that Scott Lynch creates.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I think, the most important part of it. So
Yeah.
he's nailed the most important aspect. It's just like the overall structure and the pacing got a little wonky.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that's classic second book syndrome. Like
Yeah.
that because you're trying to top the first book, and make it bigger and grander, and then weird pacing stuff happens. I think that's very normal. And I totally agree that the characters are spot on, and they're like Jean and Locke. They're not necessarily good guys, but they're very likable guys.
For sure.
And their dynamic is really interesting, and you can support like best friends like that. And Drakasha, phenomenal. I wish she would have been in it more too, I guess.
Yeah.
Like if we
Yeah.
if we had had more pirate time with Drakasha and Ezri, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah. I would have loved more pirate time of like dealing with the weirdness that was the Sea of Brass, because like we had some weird things happen with the creepy smoke
Right.
like harpy or whatever that was like trying to get them to jump off the ship.
Yeah, I want more of that.
There was the weird thing that was like following them in the water.
Yeah.
There was some giant red jellyfish that was attracted to all the blood in the fight against the Dread Sovereign that was like nomming people as they fell overboard. That was creepy and cool. So I would have loved more of those type to like explore more into like the weirdness of the Sea of Brass. And maybe they could have fought like a Kraken monster or something. That would have been cool. But
Right. Or like I want to know about Zamira's armor and how she got that. Sorry, Zamira Drakasha, same person. How she got her Elder Glass armor. Like I want more of that.
Yeah.
But,
more of her kids.
And more of her kids. Her kids are cute. And they were so traumatized by the last battle they wouldn't come up from.
Yeah.
They just
that was
wanted
messed
to
up.
stay downstairs. I was like, yeah.
Because they were hiding below when the fireball got dropped in the hold, and they may have seen Ezri run down and grab it. So, like, they're probably a little messed up.
Ugh.
But I digress.
Yeah.
I think that I would have loved more pirate time.
Yeah.
But like I said, overall, I still really enjoyed the book.
Agreed. And I'm still excited for the next one. Like, I had a lot of fun reading this book, and I had a lot of fun talking about it with you. So,
yes.
Definitely worth a recommendation. So,
I don't remember if we gave the first one a rating, but if we did, like out of five stars, like Goodreads style, I think that's how they do it over there. If I knew what I had rated the first one, I would just rate this like a half a star under the first one.
Yeah. So Goodreads doesn't do half stars, but
I'm
agree.
going to. I probably would have given the Lies of Locke Lamora like a 4.5. So I'll give this one a 4 out of 5.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I think if the weird pacing stuff had been solved, it could have surpassed the first. Because I really love piratey themed things.
Yeah.
It's just the pacing got weird. But
yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. What do you think? Do you agree?
No, I totally agree. I think that's good rating. So I will do the same. Although I might have put, you know what, Lies of Locke Lamora, I'd probably give Lies of Locke Lamora 5 stars, honestly, because I'm not a stickler with 5-star ratings. Some people are really weird about them and they never give them out, and I'm like, I liked it.
Yeah. I think I would have given Lies of Locke Lamora 5 stars if it wasn't for, like, the beginning was very jarring with all the flashbacks, and you don't know, like, what time you're in when you start a chapter. I remember that being really confusing in the beginning of that one.
That's
and
true.
I think that is why I didn't give it a full 5.
I think you're right. I had forgotten about that. I forgot that I tried to listen to it at first and was so confused about what was happening.
It is almost impossible to do the audiobook in the beginning. You almost have to start with the physical book and then move to the audiobook because it's so hard to track what's happening.
Okay, you are correct. I revoked my 5-star and go to 4.5 because I had forgotten about that until you said it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember. I was trying to like put together a cabinet in my new house and listened to the
Yeah.
audiobook and was like, I am so confused about what is happening.
Uh-huh.
So I had to read it
Yeah.
twice. And I still didn't know the setting. So you're right. It should get 4.5 stars.
Yeah.
I read it twice
Yeah.
and still didn't know where we were.
Now, is that the author's fault, or was that...
I'm not that bad. I think if I read it
I know.
twice, like, I have a much better chance of picking up on the setting.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway. All right.
Well, are we forgetting anything? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with this book?
Oh, I had noted, my note for the chairs was the chairs are Trojan horses. That's all.
Explain.
Well, because the Trojan horses, they smuggled people in, but in this case, they smuggled tools in.
Okay.
You know the Trojan horse?
No, I
story?
do.
Okay.
I was just like, the Trojan horse had humans inside.
Right. But the concept is like you're presenting something as one thing, and it is in fact something else, more nefarious. So like
It is but a...
this Trojan horse is a peace offering, but actually it's a death bomb. These chairs, they're a gift, but actually
I see.
they're tools to rob you. Same thing.
Why is it soft wood? It's just so that Jean can break them up easier to get the goodies inside.
Right.
Duh.
And the rope through the whatever. The chairs
Yeah.
were. That's the other thing. The chairs. I would have the chairs be a little different. Either not build them up so much, which is probably the actual answer.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. That's all
Yeah.
I've got.
Well, I really liked it. I'm excited for the next one. I'm excited for more Gentleman Bastards to come, because we know that he's not stopping with these three,
Right. Right.
which is great.
Yeah.
Very excited about the future for this series and this author.
Yes.
So,
Ditto.
good job, Scott Lynch.
Well done.
Yep. Cool.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, I guess go by the Republic of Thieves. And until next time, happy reading.
And we'll talk at you next time.
Later.
Bye.